This is a warning to all fucking parents out there. My child has just come home from school without my authority and has been given fucking injections on her fucking arm. I've rung the school and they've said that it was nothing to do with them, that the NHS come into the school and they've done it.
I've got a tag!
And not even had my authority. I've not signed nothing. Nothing. I'm absolutely fucking livid. Please fucking check your children and make sure that they're not being fucking jabbed without your authority. Now, if my child gets fucking ill, what am I supposed to do? Fuck knows what she's had put in her. School is fucking pissed me off. I'm so fucking angry and upset. And now I'm worried that my fucking child's gonna get fucking ill. Please.
I just can't believe that we are seeing what's happening in Melbourne. For people who don't know, if there's anybody who doesn't know, Melbourne is under the strictest lockdown in the world. They have an 8 p.m. curfew. They're only allowed out once a day for 1 hour to exercise. They're not allowed to travel beyond 5 kilometers of their homes, and if they do travel beyond that point, they need to carry documentation proving they're essential workers. They have police checkpoints all over the street, and police are breaking their windows and tearing them out of their cars if they refuse to identify themselves. Police are breaking into people's homes without a warrant, and then, of course, people are being assaulted in the street by police for walking around without masks. So I can show that video.
Yeah, but you're choking her. There's a man on a girl, and you choked her. For what? For a mask? For what? For not having a mask? Look how pathetic you are. She doesn't have a mask. Are you serious? Are you serious? Just for not having a mask? For no mask? Are you serious? You're pathetic. You are pathetic.
So for all the people who say, who have been saying this whole time, what rights do you imagine have been taken from you? What rights do you have left? These people can't walk around outside. And they have what? Slightly over 300 deaths in 6 months of a pandemic. 300. And now we're dealing with a completely different argument. And we're dealing with the argument of what's more important, your freedom or your safety. And these people have decided that in the name of safety, I would literally be a complete slave. I'm sure a lot of people's mindset will be, I don't give a shit because it's not happening to me. Because everybody likes to pretend that they do everything for the benefit of others. Really, the only reason people in the States and in Canada don't give a shit about what's happening in Australia is because it's not happening to them. This is coming for you next. If you don't care what happens to other people, that's fine, but it's coming for you next. What's the purpose of this stand 6 feet apart thing? Stand 6 feet apart, it's much easier for facial recognition to pick up on your face. It's really hard for facial recognition technology to work if you're all smashed together, right? You look at it and it's so obvious. You know, having people walk and stand in these circles, walking at that distance apart, what else would that be for other than the facial recognition? The experts have come straight out and said that the tests don't work. But still, let's bring up these numbers. Let's bring up these numbers every time we have this conversation. You know, like we talked about, you go on Public Health Ontario, and they tell you straight up that they're inflating the death count, not hiding it. So all the people that are like, it's cute that you don't know the difference between credible information and made-up information. It's not credible coming from the government? It's not credible coming from the government. It's not credible coming from YouTube. It's not credible coming from Google or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. So where's the credible information? The information you invent in your brain to keep yourself safe? When this started, I was like, oh, people are going to realize what's happening. And they're going to have a rude awakening, and they're going to revolt. And we're in it now. We're in it. We're fully in it. The people that are still calling you a conspiracy theory, you're like, what conspiracy, man? We're in the conspiracy. And they don't care. So that's frightening. These people have been so heavily brainwashed and indoctrinated that they will not snap out of it until they are being murdered. I'd like to play the clip of the ex-KGB informant about how they demoralize a nation and why these people will never be able to see facts even if you present them right to their face.
It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages. The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it. The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis.
Did I send that to you, the Yale study where they go through the different psychological manipulations to persuade people to get this COVID vaccine? They're talking about using shame, embarrassment. Imagine the shame you will feel if you spread this disease to the elderly. Oh yeah, imagine how guilty I would feel. Didn't you guys cram all of our elderly? Didn't you cram all of our elderly into long-term care homes so that they would die? Does anybody feel guilty about the fact that 100% of the people that went on ventilators died? That looks like murder. But of course, it's not that the ventilators killed them. It's that they were already so far gone that they died anyway. You give people a medical treatment for something and 100% of them die? That's murder. People who freak out about the mask thing and you're murdering people if you're not wearing a mask. According to your logic, if you haven't been wearing a mask since the day you were born, you are a murderer. There are other viruses in the world, and you've lived with them, and you've spread them around. You've been murdering people your whole life. We have a Lyme disease epidemic, and doctors won't even admit that chronic Lyme exists. You think these people give a shit about you? At what point did the government start to care? They poison us in our water. They poison our food. What's McDonald's made of? Is there even any food in that shit? Is there anything edible in McDonald's? And I'm hearing people say it. Yeah, so maybe we will have to wear masks for the rest of our lives. Have you people gone insane? People are insane. This is just collective Stockholm syndrome, wearing a mask for the rest of your life. Putting a goddamn bubble over your head. Putting kids in little plastic cages at school. Little kids in cages. I mean, wasn't it just, 2 years ago that we were so mad about Trump putting kids in cages? Now we're gonna do that to every kid on Earth? Just how nonsensical it is. You're so afraid of a virus. You're willing to go protest with thousands of people as long as you put a mask on, because the mask is what? Put on your mask, you're invincible? Again, like little kids. You know they're just waiting for fall. They're waiting for flu season. The foreshadowing has been there the whole time because, seasons change and people get sick. So we're gonna go into fall and a bunch of people are gonna get sick. And everything's gonna be COVID. And then we'll be walking around with fish bowls on our head. I always said, when the world ends, we won't go out with a bang. We'll go out with a whimper. This will go down as the most pathetic time in history. If it doesn't change soon. If it doesn't result in the grand awakening, this will go down as the most pathetic time in history. All these people that are terrified of death. Forget death. When you find out what this plan is, what this agenda is, I don't know why you haven't figured it out yet. It's right there in front of your face, but you're gonna have to live the rest of your life knowing how much of a loser you were, knowing how pathetic and weak you were. Think of what you're gonna feel on your deathbed. When your kid's walking around with a fishbowl on their head, chipped, tracked, no control, no freedom, can't play in a playground, can't touch another human being. You're going to feel really pathetic for what you did.